Hello everyone, and welcome back to Cat Chat and episode 3 of my 3-part series on my journey with breast cancer and breast implant illness. All right, this is where things get graphic, and there will still be one more slide after I finish talking here and giving you a little bit of an intro to give you the option to stop the video and not go on if you don't feel comfortable. The next photos coming up are going to be graphic, and I thought a lot about whether or not to publish these, but I'll tell you a few reasons why. First of all, I will admit that when I first started this journey and I knew that I was going to have a mastectomy and all of that ensued after my diagnosis, I always try to look for the silver lining in things, right? So in my mind, I was like, oh, well, at least I'll get brand new perky breasts, right? And this is what a lot of people think. But fortunately, I was set straight before it actually happened, so I was prepared for what was about to happen. So I looked up some photos, and I was really grateful to those brave women that posted their photos so that other women can see what they were in for. So even despite seeing what I was about to see, I did go forward with it, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But let me first clarify the difference between augmentation and reconstruction of your breasts. A good friend explained it to me this way, and I thought it was spot on. So when you talk about augmentation of your breasts, compare it to remodeling your bathroom, for instance. If you're remodeling your bathroom, you maybe add a bigger, better shower head or new faucet, sparkly, shining, and new, and that is a remodel or an augmentation. But when you talk about reconstruction, it is as if there was an explosion in your bathroom, and then you take all those little fragments and you try to cobble them together to form a new bathroom. That's what it felt like. That's what it sort of looks like. It's not pretty. It's not brand new perky breasts. It is some sort of a substitute, I suppose, for what you used to have. So when I made the decision to do reconstruction, besides not knowing what it was going to look like right up front until I looked at some photos, and even then you really don't know, because every woman is different, every surgeon is different, every experience is different. But even knowing all of that, I still wasn't prepared for how painful the reconstruction was going to be. I had no idea that putting spacers in your tissues to spread things out to sort of make room for the implants could possibly be so painful. And you'll see that experience as we go through on the photos coming up here. But what the spacer does is it's like a donut hole, it's sort of a donut shaped thing, and it's got fluid in it. But when they first put it in, it's just flat, and it has ruffled edges, and the ruffled edges need to be there because it keeps your body from sort of, your tissue from adhering to it. So it constantly keeps the tissue irritated so it doesn't get comfortable and grow around it. So you have that constant irritation. On top of that, you'll see in the photos there's a little round band-aid on my breast, and that has a port that they would inject fluid into every couple of weeks, or depending on how quickly you want to go. I always like to get things done quickly, so I went a little bit faster than some people do. But each time you go in, they add fluid to that spacer. They actually call it Jiffy Boob, which I thought was humorous. It doesn't seem terrible until the bigger it gets and the more they put in, it feels like a baseball in your chest. It is hard as a rock, and you can feel like when you tried to hug somebody, there's no give to it whatsoever. It feels very out of place and very painful. And I wasn't prepared for some of the things that happened after that, like the spasms. And my dear sister Linda Fogel, who came and helped me through every one of my surgeries, I couldn't even imagine how I would have gotten through any of these things without her amazing, caring, giving of her time and energy to help me through that recovery process. But I remember one particular incident where I had already taken the maximum dose of painkillers that I could take at the time. And Linda had a massager that she was massaging on the spot in my back that had seized up, kind of around my shoulder blade. And I was still just crying from the pain, like I couldn't imagine how it could hurt so much. And just getting through that process, that wasn't constant, those were incidences, but let me tell you, it was very painful, and I wasn't prepared for how much it was going to hurt. So there's that. And I, had started to prepare myself for how it was going to look, and it still didn't come out looking like I thought it would. Through the processes that I went through after they did the reconstruction on one breast, then they sort of even it out with the other breast and add another implant there. And it's supposed to make you symmetrical, but in my case, the original breast that was removed ended up shrinking up, and so there was a huge disparity in size, and you'll see that in the photos coming up. But I learned to be okay with it. And then going forward from that, after going through all of that, then set in the breast implant illness. And if you haven't already listened to parts 1 and 2, I go into more detail in those 2 parts about each of those experiences. But these photos will take you through the entire journey. I just wanted to sort of give you an overview of what you're going to see. So I think that about wraps it up, except for I just want to say this last thing. A lot of people ask me, why did you go through that? Why did you go through the reconstruction? It's so painful. Why didn't you just choose to go flat? So this is such a personal decision for everybody. And, looking back now, I don't know if I would have made a different decision, even though I have now chosen to go flat because of the breast implant illness. But at the time when I was first diagnosed, I really wasn't ready to let go of my breasts, and to have a body that didn't have breasts. I just wasn't there yet. And so I made that decision based on, my own personal feelings, and I would never dare to tell anybody what they should do. I don't regret my decision, really. If I'd have known then what I know now, I don't think I would have changed the decision, because at the time I was really pretty determined that I was going to keep breasts. In my mind, breasts were really the very definition of femininity and sex appeal. And I just wasn't ready to let all that go yet. And, I learned over time, and having gone through this process, and making the decision to go flat, I really had to look inward and, give a lot of thought to my body and how it looks and how I feel about it. And I really learned to see the beauty in how incredible our bodies are and how resilient. I mean, all of the things that my body went through during that time, but even before that, they provided nutrition for my children. They provided a lot of pleasure for me and my partner, during my lifetime. And, that's the facts. That's what they're there for, right? I had some concerns about how I would be viewed at one point. It took me a little bit of time to get past that, but I really learned to love my body the way it was and be so grateful that it was as resilient as it is. Because when you see, you'll see in the photos coming up, what it went through and how it was able to, in the end, what I think make my, come out looking pretty okay. It was just a matter of learning to go without breasts, and it was honestly easier at my age. I'm 56, and I had them completely removed 2 years ago, at the beginning of COVID. So I think it does help that I'm a little bit older, and I'm past childbearing years and all of that. And so anyway, it is just such a personal decision. Everybody is in their own place, and again, I would never dare to tell anybody what to do, because I would never have wanted anybody advising me on what to do. It was a lot of hard thinking. And don't let anyone make light of the situation that you're having your breast removed, because it is an amputation. It is no less of an amputation than losing an arm or a leg. It is a part of your body, a very important part of your body. And the fact that they've made it an outpatient procedure is absurd to me. And I did not have it as an outpatient procedure. I advocated for myself, and I encourage you to do the same, to stay overnight. And on a couple of my surgeries, I actually stayed a couple of nights because I was in such great pain. And I just felt like I needed the security of having a nurse there who could give me more pain meds if I needed them. And I just wasn't ready to go home, right off the bat. So anyway, do advocate for yourself. So I guess that kind of wraps things up. Again, feel free to stop the video before you get to the photos. There'll still be one more pane or slide that you can pause on that is going to warn you that it's about to get graphic. And it's not gross or disgusting, it's just the way it is. And again, if you've watched my intro video, this is the real me. I wanted to show you the real me, and sometimes the real you isn't all that pretty, but I've learned to see the beauty in it inside and out, not just the outward appearance, but I've changed inside as a person too as a result of all this. It's been a journey that I wouldn't want to do again, but also I wouldn't change the experience, if that makes any sense. Every single experience that we have brings us to who we are today, and I love who I am today. And some of those days were really, really rough, but as women, we learn to pick ourselves up and move on, because that's what we do. Anyway, all right. I guess that's it for now. I thank you so much for sharing in my journey, and I hope it has helped you some. If you're in the process of making a decision, I'm happy to answer any questions. By the way, you can feel free to pop them down in the comments. If this video was helpful to you, or if you liked it, please be sure to hit the like button. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. That helps me out a lot. Anyway, all right, I look forward to your comments and questions, and thanks again, and I hope you have a magnificent day. You all deserve it. Mwah. Okay, here we go. This is your opportunity to either pause or exit the video if you're uncomfortable watching the photos. But again, there's nothing gross or disgusting in it. It's just the real me and my journey. Here we go. This is me before my first mastectomy. This is right after the first surgery. And you can see it's concave after removing the breast tissue. The lump above there is the spacer. And here's the drains. And here's my cat Tucker. He was such a love, and he was so cuddly during my recovery. And there he is. Since he couldn't lay on my chest like he normally does, he stayed right there by my face. Such a love. This is what the stitches look like after the bandages came off. And you can see here that Band-Aid up at the top. That's the port where they put the fluid in to add to the spacer. You can see it a little bit better there. Again, they call that Jiffy Boob, because every time you go in, it pumps it up a little bit bigger. This is the stage where I like to call the Jabba the Hutt stage, because I feel like he started to look a little bit like Jabba the Hutt. And still continuing. As you can see, it doesn't look anything like a real breast, just a big lump. Still recovering a little bit better here. This is where I was admitted into the hospital for a staph infection about 3 months later, or 2 months later. And then there's the staph infection there starting to get red. That was right after the removal of the spacer and starting over. Here I had to have such heavy-duty antibiotics for the staph infection that the blood vessels kept collapsing and causing that bruising. But on the bright side, I had a beautiful view outside my hospital room window. And then my sister Linda Fogel came to visit again and help out through the surgery, and she brought us these bracelets. And then this is a little more of the recovery after the spacer was removed. It had to be completely healed before we could go back in again. My son made me this. He welded this along with a friend of his, a rose. During this time, it was very comforting. And then that says I'm a survivor. And here we are, after putting the spacer back in, kind of jumping forward in the process here. Now this is after the healing is done, and I'm getting ready for tattooing my scars. These look a little bit bigger here than they actually were. It's just the angle, but you can see that the nipple reconstruction didn't really take on the right side. And then here I am getting ready to do the tattooing. This is through an organization called P.ink that I highly recommend. I'll talk a little bit more about this in my episodes 1 and 2. This is Johnny, my tattoo artist. He was amazing. Very gentle and caring, and such a talented artist. He did do the design. He was just fantastic, and I will have his contact information in the comments below. He's here locally in Seattle. And that says, I move through this world with purpose. And that's after everything was done, and you can see that the right breast has shrunk up significantly. And that is my Chinese astrological symbol of fire horse. This is where things went south, and I started to develop the rash on my legs, which progressively got worse and worse, extremely itchy and painful, because I kept scratching it open partly. It got quite inflamed. And my fingernails started to curl. You can see all of them are starting to curl. And this is back in the hospital for a surgery to remove one of my parathyroid glands because I developed hyperparathyroidism. This was one of the most uncomfortable procedures for many reasons that I'll talk about in episodes 1 and 2. You probably can't read this very well on the screen, so this is a list of my almost 30 symptoms that I had developed by now. Severe muscle ache, severe joint pain, severe foot pain, random inflammation in the left foot, which often put me on crutches, extreme fatigue, severe full body aches, lethargy, weight gain despite a lot of diet changes, brain fog, lack of focus, dry cough, shortness of breath, balance issues, couldn't walk up and down the stairs without holding a rail, horrible rash on my legs, thyroid and parathyroid issues, which was hyperparathyroidism, pernicious anemia, which made it so that I had to take B12 shots every week, neuropathy in my right hand, tingling in my right upper back, low back pain, bottom of my right shoulder blade had lots of fatigue pain and was itchy, insomnia, rosacea, memory loss, red eyes all the time, large decline in vision over the last year before explant, random tingling and itching of both breasts, mostly the right one, right breast shrunk, no libido, hair going gray rapidly, elevated liver enzymes, fingernails started to curl, and I had a lot of pain in my upper right quadrant of my abdomen where my liver was, and I believe that was because of the liver damage that all of the chemicals caused. These are my eyes the day of my surgery, the explant surgery. And there's right after the surgery with the bandages on. And you can see the drains there again, and of course my tattoos got cut off. And then this is the encapsulation that your body forms around the implant to protect your body from it. This needs to be removed if you have explant surgery, because the toxins are held within that encapsulation. That's after it was removed from the implant. And my left one did not have the full encapsulation because they couldn't remove it. It was attached to my chest wall too tightly to remove it and without causing damage. So they removed part of it, but part of it was left. These are my eyes 7 days after surgery. They're improving. And this is after the bandages have been removed. And you can see the scars pretty much go from one side completely to the other. This was right at the beginning of COVID, so that's why the masks. And again, you can see where the tattoos have been removed as well, but at least they cut it off at a pretty decent spot, so it doesn't look too terrible. I was sad to lose them though. This was about a year after the surgery. And this was 3 months after the surgery, my eyes. You can see that they've improved significantly. And this is me today, 2 years later, and you can see the scars are almost completely gone. And it looks pretty darn good. And this is me giving myself permission to be comfortable in my own skin and in my own body and enjoying my life. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if this was helpful to you.